Well, we'll start with pulling the steering wheel here, and it's kind of hard because it's almost eye level for me. Anyway, the nut in the center here, okay, this is 521 setup, 520, 521. 320 is probably pretty close. 620 is probably pretty close, except for metric. I don't have a horn. I went to look to see if I had another steering wheel with a horn and that stuff. If I do, it's all tucked away in boxes. I sent the last one out to another Ratson member at one point. Anyway, to get the horn off, it's a push it in and rotate counterclockwise, and the nubs will release, and that'll pop out, and you'll end up with a spring in here that's over that. That's what's pushing the horn button out. Now, this steering wheel's loose here, but we're going to pretend it's on tight. Now, if that, especially if you're out in the scrapyard or something like that, you may have a little trouble getting the crescent wrench in here to break that loose. Okay, it's a 7/8 inch nut. You know, I've found tire irons out in the scrapyard that let me that fit, that I was able to take them off with. And I don't want to do the banging and the damage here, but out in the scrapyard, you can literally grab onto the steering wheel and pull. You'll be pushing against the brakes, the firewall, all that kind of stuff. You can leave the nut in so you don't lose your friggin' front teeth or whatever. But you can try pulling really hard on it, wiggling it back and forth. You know, both directions. Sometimes that'll break it loose. The other thing you can do too, I've done it with a rock. I've done it with tire irons. I've done it with a hammer. But you can pull really hard up and then smack that, give it a good sharp hit right here in the center with a heavy object, you know, hammer, rock, something like that. Especially if you don't care about the steering wheel. If you're trying to get it apart for another reason, you don't want to damage the steering wheel. So be a little bit more careful there. But I've done all those techniques, and have yet to take my steering wheel puller to the scrapyard to get a steering wheel off. So anyway, let's we got the nut done. When it breaks loose, that way the nut will stop it, and that way you won't break your teeth out or whatever. So I'm gonna take the nut off, leave the steering wheel on, as if it's still stuck on there, and we'll go ahead and do the steering wheel puller basically. Now, what I'm going to use here, this is actually a harmonic balance puller, okay, and I've always been able to use it. It's always worked well enough. And what you're looking for here is, I don't know if you can see from that angle. Let's, can I move this angle just a little bit? Oh, oops. Had to shake the camera way more than I probably should, but then the question is if it focuses on the steering wheel or on the floor behind it. Okay, so let's turn it there. I'm sure you can see that now. There's a hole there, okay, and 180 degrees across from it. There's another hole right there. Those are the two holes we're after. Now it's hidden behind this, so let's go ahead and take this ring out. This is the horn lock ring. We'll just take that out and throw it away. I mean, set it aside. Okay, so now go through the harmonic balancer, or they make specific steering wheel pullers. I'm gonna go ahead and find the correct ones and put it together. I'm gonna put this together in just a second here. Now it's got 4 slots here. We're only gonna use the 2 apart from each other, across from each other. And the kit typically comes with these flanged heads, bolts, okay? You can see that in the other ones here. Those are the ones that came with the kit. The other ones I've added over the years and stuff like that for various things I've pulled. I just put the bolts back in the package and leave them there in case I ever have to do it again. So we want that press piece on the end, the foot there. We want that on the bottom side, okay? Because for strength, you can see how they've got that shaped. You don't want it up, okay? We need these flanged heads to come in close to the edge there, and they'll come in closest if we can do that. Okay, and we're going to need it in fairly close and tight, so we're going to call that good. Actually, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of clearance there, so I'm going to go round up a couple of washers too and put a couple of washers in there. So it's a bit of a balancing act sometimes. You want to have this recessed up in here in case your bolts are a little too short, and yes, they are on the short side. So let's see if we can possibly get that in there deep enough. No, Okay, well, I got two other 5/16 bolts here, so let me just grab those. Yeah, I'll get. I actually have 3 different lengths of 5/16 bolts in there. Okay, so back to where we were at. So you'll feed one in here. I got it started. I'm not too worried about placement or anything like that just yet. So we'll run that down with a ratchet a little bit there. Now what I'm looking is I want to pull this back straight. I want to see that they're fairly even between the holes here, because what I'm looking for is I want to, yeah, see, I got quite an angle here. Okay, it's tilted like this. So I either want to run this one in some more, try to get it even, or I want to back this one back out. And that's pretty close. I think that one can go in just a hair more. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. Hey, and that fits that too. So I'll just tuck that in my pocket there for a second. Okay, now, can you actually even see that? Nope. Let's change the angle a bit. Okay, what we're doing here, we're going to try to get it centered pretty close between the bolts there. I've already got it to where it shoots at pretty good angle, at least it seems to. And I want to run that down and try to get that centered over the shaft there as best I can. Okay. Now, granted, this is going to take a lot more force when the steering wheel is actually stuck on there. But now at this point here, you can grab the steering wheel and just crank this bolt, and that'll jack the steering wheel right off. Okay. Then you can set it aside and go play with what you want to play with. So, as long as we're cropped in here fairly tight, let's make sure we're in the center just in case it's not focusing. All right. How this locks on, there's splines right here. And from everything I've seen, all Datsun splines are the same. In fact, the steering wheel from my 90 Chevy Lumina fit the splines perfectly as well in a... oh, I take that back. I put that in my Chevy truck. Anyway, that's why you see guys with 280Z wheels and steering wheels and stuff like that in their 510s and their trucks, blah, blah, blah. As far as I know, these all match between all of them. Now, this cone down here, okay, this is a small wire washer, or a wire spring, rather. And you can separate that and get it off. And you see that little fine wire there? That's just a tiny little spring. Okay, so you can take this apart. You don't necessarily want to, but it just sits in a recess here. This is critical. This is what it is wedging against. Okay, so you want to make sure that when you put it back on, you don't pop it into 3 different pieces like I just did. It doesn't really matter. I need to take it off anyway so I can mess with the bushing and stuff like that. But let's just see if we can get it back on here without taking all friggin' day. There we go. We'll just slide it down there, just right up the ramp, and bing, just lock it right back in there. Okay. That's that. This bushing right here isn't what it rides in. It's there as a spacer, I guess. I don't know. We'll call that good. Let's go ahead and take the plastic housing off. All right, as long as we're here. Okay, this spring tab right here, okay, that is the horn. The horn should just be a ground. Comes up through here basically, or that's where it's getting sent to. Yeah. So basically what happens is when you put the steering wheel on, you see that rub mark right there? That's what rides around there. So if your horn, as you're turning it, you hold the horn down. If it's intermittent, it's not making good contact around there. You can just clean that all up and everything. That piece is isolated via the plastic from the hub, okay? But, you see that this pin here, it's a spring-loaded pin. That pin goes to this plate via a spring in there, okay? And so the plate is rubbing on the brass leaf spring there, basically. Comes up through here. Now when you push the horn down, that takes the ground from the center hub, from the steering column and that stuff, and puts it back down this wire, through the spring, through this plate, through that contact there, and back down through the wiring harness to activate the relay for your horn to go off. That's the gist of that. These other little pieces on the back here, these are nubs for blinker canceling and that stuff. Actually, let me see if we can get a better angle. Dirty and greasy and kind of hard to see, but I have no intentions of cleaning it up for this. Now the switch is actually buried down inside there, okay? We're looking at just the canceling mechanism, okay? So that pin on the back side of the steering wheel I was showing you, it'll ride in the middle here, okay? And when it goes around, it'll clear all the way around, even when it comes back. The screwdriver's a hair big, but when you turn the blinker on, okay, and we want to go left, it clears the other one going this way. But when it comes back, okay, it pushes on this one. And granted, you got a whole lot more leverage with the steering wheel than I do with the screwdriver, okay? But if you see that, when it's coming back clockwise from a left-hand turn and going back to center, that pushes the arm back up. Likewise, same way here, okay? If you can see that. So that's the canceling mechanism. Now back down in there, there's another shaft more or less that goes in there and actually works the switch itself for the contacts that tell the blinkers to actually work left or right. But the mechanical cancellation. So that's what you need those pins for on the back of the steering column. And what happens is when you put an aftermarket hub adapter on here and it holds it too far out, those pins don't mate. They don't reach down in here far enough and your horn ring doesn't make contact. So we're going to address that with shortening the steering column as we go along here. Alright, just a Phillips head screwdriver here. The hole's tight enough you can literally just walk this around, twist it a little bit, and find it, boom, and get your screwdriver locked in there without even having to climb up under the dash to get it up in there. You know, you can literally just wiggle it around and spin it and find it by feel there most of the time. There we go. Okay, so it's a two-piece plastic housing. The screws are always up in the bottom, and it just separates. There's the top half. And the bottom half has an extra screw in it here that is straight up. It's right here. Okay. And that holds the plastic to the blinker switch assembly. Okay. And broken plastic pieces are common. Just set those aside. It's also real common for these bosses to get pulled out broken, that kind of stuff. This one's actually in pretty good shape. So now the blinker switch, you can see, is on there with a clamp. Okay. Let me, we're going to loosen that up. Let me loosen it up while I'm here. Okay. But you'll notice that it doesn't rotate and it doesn't go forward and back very far. We're going to look at that on the other side. So this is the lock on the other side. Now if I took the clamp out, it's loose. The thing is you still can't get it off without pulling this because there's not enough slop. This cast piece here goes all the way around, okay? So this pin needs to come out, and I call it a pin. It's a screw with a pin on the end of it there, okay? And that pin goes inside this column, and that's what keeps this from moving around and that stuff. So if your blinker is all over the place, stuff like that, the screw is falling out or you're missing it. You know, steering column wise, they just rotate this around and do it on the other side if you know, if you really wanted. But that's pretty much all there is to the blinker switch there. We can see, this is what I was talking about here with, you know, that piece that actuates that lever there. That's actually the blinker switch. So orientation, I was thinking it was over here on this side, but it's actually right down here. So there you go. It just goes in between the contacts there. And as long as we're here, there's the leaf spring for the horn. You can see that it's just soldered to that wire, just comes down and goes right into the harness there and out. Super simple. Oh, and try to do all this with everything in my hand here. Let's see if you can see that. Might not be quite enough light. There's a tiny little leaf spring in here, and you can see the wire soldered there, some copper. Okay, what that is when you pull the shaft forward, it makes contact there. And it continues to make contact whether you go left or right for the blinker. And what that is that's the high beam. Okay, so with it yeah, this is the back. So I'm pulling it forward. I'm going up. That's toward the steering column. That engages it. That turns the ground on, which kicks it onto the high beams. You push it back away toward the dash, it disengages. That way, on low beams, that relay is not energized the entire time. Low beam should be when the relay is off. So that's where your high beams are. And that's about all we can get out of a blinker switch assembly. Just real quick while I'm thinking about it. This all this grease around here, this oil, okay, you don't typically see that when you take this apart. That blinker assembly was all oiled up. Reason being is this steering column was off a vehicle for years, just laying out in the back, and it tilted down so that all the oil from the steering box ran up into the column here. That's why that got so greasy. Normally you won't see that unless you tilt yours upside down too. Okay, now as long as we're here, I went ahead and took the little coned washer off there, okay, and I couldn't get this darn thing to move, so I just went and got a screwdriver and give it a little boost there. And it looks the same on either side, so I don't think you really have to pay too much attention to which way it came off or goes back on. Now, there's nothing holding this in, okay, except for there is a little lip here, okay, and when that's down in there, that other bushing was in there, that one I just took off, and then it's behind the cone, and then the steering wheel is down there. So that big bushing I just took out of there stops this from backing out. If you forget to put that bushing back in there, there's a good chance that this can work its way back out of the steering column. A lot of them are a lot looser than this. And this is what starts squeaking, okay? When you're turning your wheel left and right, you start getting an ee. A lot of times it's this in here being dry. Obviously this one's not dry. I've lubed the hell out of it since I turned it upside down. But you can see how that just flops around in there. The 510s actually have a bearing in there. I wouldn't be surprised if that bearing fit. So we'll see. Anyway, that's just basically more information with a camera that's just not focusing. Boy, that's annoying as hell. Anyway, let's do a little setup here. Okay, I've got the tube, the shaft, all the way into the tube there, as far as it can go. Okay, and I put the screw back in here, but I don't have the clamps tight. Okay, so I can move it back and forth within the range of the screw. Okay, so I'm going to take a measurement here, and I want to know how far the plastic changes in relation to the end of the tube. Okay, so that is 3/8 of an inch. I can just sight right down the edge of the plastic there. So now let's push the plastic out. And I don't really care where the shaft is, actually, if you heard it drop there, because I'm measuring to the tube there anyway. So then that's about 9/16. Okay, so anywhere in that range, basically a 1/2 inch. Just remember that, 1/2 inch, that's what we're shooting for. It just dawned on me here a few minutes ago that I think I had a 510 steering wheel earlier. I'm pretty sure this is a truck steering wheel. The difference is in the horn button, but I wanted to, as long as we're on the back side here, I wanted to show that it's fairly similar, okay? The amount of lip sticking here, real similar. and you know, missing a couple of holes there. That's just a casting difference, stuff like that. Most of the rest of it looks to be about the same. Screws are a little different, stuff like that, but pins are in the same orientation. Look to be spread about the same distance apart. Backsides look pretty similar. We'll take a peek at the front side. So offhand, I don't remember exactly which wheel is which. A lot of they appear to be really darn similar, dimension-wise, size-wise, stuff like that. Only difference I could see is this screw here goes up in the V, in the chevron here, whereas this screw is in the bottom of the chevron. So maybe somebody can pipe in. I got a feeling, I'm pretty sure this is the truck one, and the other one is the 510. I don't remember offhand. This floats in here. I'm going to test them both, see how they fit on the shaft, and see if there's any differences there. Started a few times, kept thinking, oh man, I know where the horn button is, I can't find it. But anyway, I think this this style, I just got done saying this is probably the 510. You know, it's probably the 521. The 521 out front has that same wheel on it, and I've had far more of these 521 extra wheels than 510. So we're going to assume that one's the 521. So anyway, I've got the 510 one on here, and let me get the ruler here. We figured that we needed a 1/2 inch, roughly. Now, that huge gap right there, that's not good. That would be the gap between the plastic housing and the steering wheel. Don't like that. Let's see if the other steering wheel has a little less, maybe. I've got it sitting vertically like this so I can keep the tubing on the shaft. So that looks to be pretty much exactly the same. Yeah, still a huge gap. Well, let's oops, this is a hub from a 320. Let's see how far it goes down. Oh, that goes down quite a bit better. Oh yeah, see, now that's about more what we're looking for there, especially since we can go up to 9/16. See, that would leave a nice gap. So makes me wonder if both of those stupid steering wheels are 510 steering wheels. Okay, so I've got some aftermarket ones to test here. Let's take a peek at them real quick. I think I finally found a truck one here. Yep, slide it up to 9/16. It's the same gap as the 320. Okay, so this is a 521 hub, and the other two must be 510s. So not exactly sure why I've got a pair of 510s on, but they work to steer the car, and that's really all I care about. So anyway, heck, one could be a 620. Maybe that's the difference. The 620, that could very well be the case. 620 was a whole lot shallower. So let's move on to the aftermarket kits. Here's a hodgepodge of stuff. Okay, this is the 521 hub that seemed to fit pretty nice, and gave us a nice gap. You know, that's the bottom side there. So as you can see here, you know, the end of the bevel right here is right here on this one. Okay, that means that the bell, the blinker housing, has to be basically right up close to here. From here to here, this one takes up about a 1/2 inch of space. Okay, the 320 from there to there, pretty similar. These two, on the other hand, you know, the end of the tape